Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. It's approximately 5:01. Let's start with roll call. Commissioners present. I'm Don Griffin.
Cindy Canarney's here.
Nick Kappus is here.
Eric Sandweiss.
David Walter.
Okay. Staff present.
Doris Sims, Hand Department.
Matt Swinney, Hand Department.
Larry Allen, Legal.
Alex Crowley, Department of Economic and Sustainable Development.
Okay. All right. Any others present, or we got everybody? I think we have everybody.
No, Christina Finley is present, but her microphone's not working.
Can't talk. Okay. Let's see. Let's have the reading of the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes for August 31st, 2020, and the executive session summary on August the 31st, 2020?
This is Eric Sandweiss. I move approval of the minutes of both.
Okay.
Cindy Canarney seconds.
All in favor? I, Don Griffin.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappus, yes.
Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
None opposed. The motion carries. Examination of claims. Is there a motion to approve the claims register for September the 4th, 2020?
Cindy Canarney moves approval.
David Walter seconds.
All in favor? I, Don Griffin. Yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappus, yes.
Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
None opposed. The motion carries. Examination of payroll registers. Is there a motion to approve the payroll register for September the 11th, 2020?
This is David Walter. I move that we approve payroll registers.
This is Eric Sandweiss. I second the motion.
All in favor? I, Don Griffin, yes.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappus, yes.
Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
No opposed. The motion carries. Let's next have report of officers and committees. Is there a director's report?
I'm available to answer any questions. I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Okay. Is there a legal report?
Like Doris, nothing to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Treasurer's report?
Jeff's not present, but I would also be happy to answer any questions for the treasurer's
Okay.
report to the extent that I can.
Okay. Is there a CTP update report?
We've got 3 items in the new business, so I think I'll just defer to those.
Okay. And hey, is there any questions in regards to anyone have any questions from the director, for the legal, for the treasurer before we get going with new business? No? Okay. Let's go on to new business. The next item of business is Resolution 20-64. This is endorsing the feasibility study for the Economic Development Agency grant application to construct a tech center in the Trades District. Alex, is this you?
Yeah, let me start and really kind of lay the groundwork. The next 3 items, which are the A, B, and C in the new business, all have to do with the Economic Development Administration grant project that we've been working on feverishly here for the last 30 to 45 days. So we will have basically 3 resolutions, and also we'd like to share with you some of the design work that's been done in preparation for the grant. But before we do that, there are a couple of documents that are required as part of the grant. The first being this one, and then the Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy is the second. So what we'd like to do is take you through each of these progressively, seeking your endorsement of them as part of our process to prepare them for the grant. So I'll turn it over to Jen Pearl with the Bloomington Economic Development Corporation. She can start with the overview and description of the feasibility study and its role in the grant.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. So the U.S. Economic Development Administration requires a feasibility study conducted by a third party as a part of their application process. Essentially, they want to understand that the funds you're requesting are, in fact, for a feasible project, that you're not just saying, no, it's good, trust me. So we contracted with the IU Public Policy Institute, led by Tom Guevara, who was previously a high-level civil servant with EDA, so brings a lot of great background to the table, along with his policy analysts. They essentially conducted a feasibility study using a few different components. One, they looked at the concept that we're proposing for this project. They looked at market demand for the services that are proposed by the center. And they did a data analysis on our local growing clusters of industry. So they looked at data for the tech industry in our area, as well as growth and opportunity for growth as well. They conducted a series of stakeholder interviews with members of government, local tech companies, local nonprofits, and economic development organizations that support growth, et cetera. And also, we worked with a local appraisal group that provided a real estate analysis that was also pulled into the report to look at rents and other things like that. In terms of the findings of the study, I think one of the major findings was that while there's a lot of ingredients for supporting job growth in our area, we're often lacking centralization with focus on the tech sector. And the document that's in your packet with the executive summary outlines many of those findings. I can also go into further details as anyone has questions.
Do you have any questions for Jen? Or we? Oh,
Jen, this is Eric Sandweiss. And maybe this is a question for Alex, maybe it's more procedural. So we just have the executive summary. We have this 3 or 4 page top line report. I assume from Jen's account that the appendices are all quite thorough and that they met your approval. They're supposed to meet ours as well. Is there some way that they can at least be added as a matter of record if we're not actually looking at them directly tonight?
Yeah, so one of the realities of this whole grant preparation effort is that things are very much in progress at all times. So we, at the time that we released the packet, the feasibility study, the more substantial part of it was being completed. We proposed, first of all, the executive summary aligns with the findings of the fuller document. What we would propose to do, if with your approval, would be to give it to you as part of a follow-up set of documentation, whether it's in the packet for the next meeting or some other way for us to get it to you once we lock it down, so that you can see the fuller document.
Okay.
Alex, this is just a general question, but how will this project be governed long-term?
Meaning how, if awarded and when built, how will the building itself be managed?
Right.
Or the grant be managed?
Well, I'm asking what's the governing body for this building / grant on an ongoing basis? I know the mill is managed by a board of directors.
Yeah, so there's sort of 3 answers to that. So the building will be owned by the RDC and the land will be owned, and in fact, with your approval of the resolution further down the agenda, the operations of the building will mimic the structure to a large degree of what's being done at the mill. So there will be a nonprofit stood up to operate the building, manage the day-to-day, both building side of things and also the commercialization effort. The grant, which is a multi-decade grant responsibility, will be managed by the city. So we are, as part of the grant process, we are required to submit our credentials as an entity able to manage a long-term grant like this, which we're doing. And then the nonprofit is being formed specifically for the purpose of this building. And that documentation has been completed or is in the process of being signed off on right now. And then, yes, and then the RDC will continue to own the building and the land.
Thank you.
Okay, so any other questions in regards to resolution 20-64? Because we'll skip to, I'm sure we're going to have more questions when we hit resolution 20-65 and 20-66. But do we have any questions in regards to this resolution right now? And I'd also like to open it up to the public for questions if anyone has anything from the public. And I don't think so. All right. So can we have a motion?
Oh, this is David Walter. I'll make a motion. We accept resolution 20-64.
Cindy Canarney seconds.
All those in favor? Aye, Don Griffin.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes.
Eric Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
All opposed, none, and the motion does carry. The next item of business is resolution 20-65. This is the endorsing the comprehensive economic development strategy for the Economic Development Agency grant application to construct a tech center in the trades district. I'm sorry, folks.
So I can speak to, I can speak this as well. Someone's pretty excited about there in the background. Another document to be submitted with the grant application is what's called a comprehensive economic development strategy. Now you had a draft, nearly complete draft of the document in your packet, and certainly would welcome any questions about that. What I can do is very briefly just reiterate some of the background here about what this document is, why you're approving it, how does it normally work that a document like this is put together, and who is involved in it, and the next steps, if that would be helpful. So let me begin by what a comprehensive economic development strategy document is. It's called, CEDS for short. And in this case, it's actually an equivalent document. Basically, a CEDS should serve as a means to engage community leaders, leverage the involvement of the private sector, and establish a strategic blueprint for regional economic collaboration. So that's language directly from the EDA. In the absence of an EDA-funded CEDS, which is a more robust process, the EDA can accept what's called a CEDS equivalent, which is a regionally prepared plan following the same guidelines that essentially serves as a CEDS, but is technically a CEDS equivalent document, which is what this would be. The plan has to have certain, what we're submitting has to have certain characteristics to it that are required of a CEDS equivalent document. Number one, that it's current, which this is, that its preparations and contents address the EDA's regulations, which this does. And that's basically that it follows a certain format and contains a certain amount of specific information. So it has to have a summary background. It has to have an analysis, a SWOT analysis, It has to lay out strategic directions and some action plans and an evaluation framework. So all of these requirements are dictated strictly by the Economic Development Administration. They were followed strictly in this SEDS equivalent document. And the document was put together in collaboration between the BEDC and the city and other players. The reason the RDC is, we're asking the RDC to approve it is, number one, it is both important in the mission of the RDC. It's also associated with this grant, which is a building and land that would be owned by the RDC moving forward. So we felt that it would be important to engage with the RDC as we prepared this for submission of the grant, seeking your explicit endorsement of the SEDS equivalent document as part of that grant. Normally, a document like this it is frankly a more robust process. So it can take 6, 9, 12 months to get done. It's sort of, think of the comp plan and other similar longer term strategy documents. This was done very quickly. It's good. It lays out some good strategies and goals, but this document, we're treating this document very much as a living, breathing document. We intend to basically submit it as a SEDS equivalent document to meet the requirements of the grant. But the BDC is going to lead a process here, in the latter half of the year into early 2021 to really blow this out and make it more robust, so that it is more reflective and of input from the community, and we have more time to kind of process the goals. So I guess what I would say to you for this purpose is, this is a good, solid document, and it meets the requirements that we need it to meet right now. We will very much go back at it again once we submit this grant and beef it up some more and really evolve it for a longer term utility.
Alex, may I add something as well? One of the things that we should note, and this is in the draft that you can see starting around page 5, is that this is pulling from 26 plans that are currently on the books. So we were very, very careful about incorporating plans that are already out there that have gone through a great deal of public input. And also in the document, we've detailed the entities that we've engaged with in this process to make sure that we had feedback on this document as well.
And that was my final bullet item in the agenda.
I apologize.
No, that's okay. So to that point, there's been a pretty robust engagement, even in this kind of limited format. So so I think it's a really good foundation for the next iteration of the document, but already has some good information in it.
All right. Any questions in regards to Resolution 20-65? And you know what? Why don't we? We have to do this. We legally have to ask the public if they have any questions in regards to each resolution. So that's why, if people are listening, that's why I'm doing this. So does the public have any input any questions in regards to Resolution 20-65? And if not, let's go on to a longer discussion with the redevelopment commissioners in regards to Resolution 20-65. Do we have any questions?
Yeah. My first question, Alex, what is the timeline here? I guess I might have missed it. What's the timeline for the grant application? If we don't vote on this today, is there a delay in the grant application?
Yes. So we gave ourselves the maximum amount of time to try to pull it together, and unfortunately, that obviously limited your ability to spend a tremendous amount of time with it. We apologize for that. It was just a give and take that we had to do. We are planning to release the application this week, and timing is important. It's, the CARES Act funding was issued, broken up according to EDA regions, and it's sort of a national race against the clock here to submit applications to be able to obtain monies that will run out. So we're very focused on trying to keep this moving if we can, recognizing that, obviously this is pretty rushed.
Okay.
Well, clearly, you are pulling from, and I understand where Ms. Pearl's coming from, and that the BDC and you guys are coming from, that there's 26 different strategic plans that you're pulling from, and there's an advisory group. I just find myself again having the same conversation of like, we're here making a decision on something at the last second and we're a vote on it. And if we don't vote on this, then we're delaying something. And, for, a weekend to review such a draft, comprehensive, packet that you put together is not nearly enough time to reasonably have like questions answered and things along those lines. So I guess my question to you is, if we're to be massaging this more after you send it, what's that do for the actual application itself? If we massage it and do, have more additions after we send the application, what does that do for the funding? Does it alter it, or can you provide some guidance to that?
Well, so just to be clear, we will submit the document. This is very close to being a complete document. We will submit it as part of the grant application, and that will fulfill the requirement the EDA has that we have a SEDS equivalent document as part of our process. So to some extent, part of the exercise is to check that box, make sure that we have a thorough, robust document that reflects broadly what the community has indicated previously it wants to see in an economic development strategy, as captured in a variety of different plans, as Jen mentioned. So, there's a short-term need, which is to get it in, get it done, get it in, put ourselves in contention for a highly competitive grant process. There's a different process and a different need, which is, what is going to be the economic development strategy for Bloomington and the surrounding region for the next 10 and 20 years? And that's a little bit of a different exercise in that it needs to build on the same documents this builds on. It needs to build on this particular document. But that, like the comp plan, like the UDO, like a lot of the other plans, the sustainability action plan, a lot of the other plans that we have going, that we've developed and we've put out there, is not designed to be something that's just locked in stone. It is going to evolve. Strategies will evolve, goals will evolve as time goes on. So that's when I mentioned that it's a living, breathing document. That second phase can start almost immediately and needs to start immediately. We're in the middle of an economic crisis right now. So we need to start to address some of the long economic development challenges that we have in the region. And so I look at that second effort as one that can and will give you a lot more time to weigh in on, to participate in, and really help us craft for the long term.
Hey, Alex, it's Cindy. How many groups that, you talked about in the document, it talks about LIDO groups, but how many of those groups have had the opportunity to review this and weigh in? I think it's been pretty widespread.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I hate to say it, but a lot of people, there wasn't a lot of reaction time, and that's a fairly universal problem that we have in this accelerated timeframe. But the SEDS document was circulated to a variety of different players in the economic development space, both within the city and the county, the university as well. And so they were given an opportunity to weigh in, to provide commentary. That commentary was actually integrated in the document. And this will reflect that to the extent that they had the ability to provide feedback within the time frame.
So really, it's kind of a consensus of a multitude of community groups, and certainly wasn't prepared in a vacuum. And a lot of these groups had the opportunity to review and ask questions and weigh in on the outcome.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, but to be fair to, you know, I think like you, they will want a deeper participation in the next round, but recognize that, you know, the time frame we were all working under was an important one to try to stick with.
And then this question is for Larry or maybe someone else, but so it's being presented to this group, and what's our responsibility to it?
Just for the clarity purposes, Philippa will answer this just because I have a conflict of interest, so these questions will be directed to Philippa.
Yes, we're asking you to vote on it and approve the SEDS equivalent so that we could submit the application. They require it as part of your application. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Yep.
This is David Walter. The way I look at it is that years ago when we set up this trades district, the entire purpose of it was to construct buildings of this type to enhance the technology portion of the city of Bloomington growth. So this fits the bill. And we're probably fortunate that for 2 million in, we might get 20 million back. So I always look at, you know, dollar for dollar, if we can leverage funds to get more funds involved, that's a good thing. And if we do, you know, it sounds like a ball field somewhere. If we build it, then it should fill up. So I'm very much in favor of this proposal. I think in the overall scheme of things that these are the types of buildings we envision for this green space. And that's why I went to the trouble of tearing down the old freezer plant and the old IU printing plant, because they just really did not fit the bill for adaptive reuse. That we needed something newer and more modern to meet today's technology demands.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Or are we ready for a motion for 20-65?
Cindy Canarney, I make a motion. We approve 20-65.
This is Eric Sandweiss, and I will second Cindy's motion.
All those in favor?
Done. I'm really sorry. I just have to make sure that I'm about to ask is asked. Alex, I just want to make sure that that we aren't pigeonholed by this application from like for the SEDS equivalent. Because I guess I don't know how the money works, so I don't want them to look at something that they're like, okay, you use this money for this, it's earmarked for this, but then we have a bunch of different goals, and then all of a sudden it can't be used for that. Am I following correctly that because we submit this, it doesn't earmark us directly into something that's currently in this document?
No, that's a good question. So if we were specifying in, which we are, in extraordinary detail in the grant application, what our intentions are relative to the building itself and how we intend to use it. So the grant itself is focused on the building, and we are held to that, right? So we're saying to the EDA, fund us for this particular building, and this is what we intend to do with it. That is absolutely something that they will hold us to. This document is really a broad community-wide economic strategy document. And in fact, there's very limited mention of this technology center. It's mostly in the context of the broader strategy. They are not going to hold us accountable to the specifics of this particular economic development strategy should they award the grant for a building.
Right. And the only reason I ask is because they always ask for metrics, right? They want, like most anything anymore, they want to see what is your return, what are these, goals that you set, and how much you have gotten to that goal. I just wanted to make sure we're not putting ourselves in a bad situation. You know what I mean? So that's all I'm asking about.
Yeah,
so
no,
I appreciate your answer.
Yeah. And again, even in the case of the building itself, I think, our understanding is the EDA's, certainly wants us to be as specific as possible as what we're trying to achieve, but they do understand that things change. And particularly in this, this is a CARES Act grant. So I think the foundational assumption is people are in a world of hurt all over the country. And there's an uncertain future. So I think there's a fair amount of latitude from the EDA, even in the particular parameters of the grant funded building, that you make your best effort, you try to do what you say you're going to intend to do. If you largely succeed, that's okay for them. If certain things are slightly off what you indicated would be the case.
Okay. We have a motion and we have a second. All those in favor? Aye. Don Griffin.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappas.
Nick, I lost you. Nick?
Yes.
You say yes?
Can you hear me? Yes.
Okay.
Eric Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
All those opposed, none. The motion carries. Next item of business is Resolution 20-66, approval of funding match and use of real property for Economic Development Administration, or the EDA, CARES Act grant to construct Trade District Technology Center.
Okay, so we can do this one of two ways, I guess. Don, maybe I'll leave it to you to guide us, which is we have Axis Architecture. They are in the meeting with us, and they're prepared to share with you some of the designs and some of the overview of the physical structure and the design work and engineering work that they've been doing. We can either start with that and then move to the resolution, or we can do it the other way around. And I guess I'll leave it to you how you would prefer to do that.
Let me ask I mean, at this point, this is more about a concept, right? And we all have agreed on a concept. So I'm not sure the pretty pictures are going to really make a difference. But is this something we want to see right now, or do we want to vote on this, guys? Can any of you can speak up?
I think it'd be nice to see what Axis has to present and then vote.
It does seem germane to gathering the information that we want to make an informed decision.
Okay.
So I know they have a pretty robust presentation, but maybe what I can do is ask them to go through what they have in about 10 minutes or so. Is that, and then I know that doesn't give Axis a lot of time, but then we can kind of focus in on the key parts of the building, and then we can move to the resolution.
Right. I mean, yeah, we do want to see the pictures. So let's see them.
Can you guys hear us?
Hey.
Can you hear us?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yep.
Okay, good. I just have to figure out how to share our screen. Oh, there it is. Okay. So can you all see our screen down here? Yes. I'm getting some nods. Okay. So I'm Sean Morsey with Axis Architecture. This is
Drew White with Access, one of the partners. Thank you.
And really the past couple of weeks here, we've been working with Alex and Jen and Kaisa on this Trades District Technology Center. And we can, again, just spend high level about 10 minutes on it. So really what we've been working on is an office building, an accelerator slash commercialization office space for tech companies within the Trades District. We've landed on a roughly 31,000 square foot office building, 3 levels. And again, it's in the Trades District, and it's just catty corner to the dimensional mill. So one big project component that we've had from the beginning is how can this building be a bridge building from startup to established tech company, kind of fill that gap within Bloomington's office space, but at the same time also providing just an opportunity for more Class A office space in general. So really one is providing that need for Class A office, as well as creating that accelerator to help produce high performance tech companies within Bloomington and Monroe County. So really our phase 1 scope here the last couple of weeks has been developing a program, developing a building that you're going to see here, and then putting that into a preliminary engineering report. So a lot of this is just the graphics from that package. So then stepping back, just big overarching design concepts that we had. And these are kind of 3 pillars that we focused on throughout the design. One is being both historic, but also pointing towards the future. So obviously this building is within the Trades District, so it needs to respect the existing heritage of the site. So the Showers Brothers Furniture Company, that story, but at the same time it's housing tech companies that are going to have an impact on the future. So this building really needs to be something of today, contemporary language that is a proper home for these tech companies. The second goal being to evolve and support these companies. So using that within the architecture as well as the programs of the building. How can they facilitate growth as well as just evolving their brands, their identities, as well as their products. And then the last concept is really connecting and inspiring. So connecting companies, both company to company, as well as company to public. So how can we develop an architecture that pulls the public in, as well as create opportunities within the architecture to get a dialogue between companies. And then just using the architecture to one, inspire and excite people. So again, within the Trades District here, the site that we've selected for the building is again catty corner to the mill building. So we're at the intersection of Maker Way and Madison Street here. And approximately the parcel is 136 feet east to west, and then 125 feet north to south. So and there's really 3 reasons why we selected this site. One being it's in the center of the Trades District. So again, this building has high impact just due to its placement. It's at the center of the campus itself. 2, just that proximity to the dimensional mill. And then lastly, just the proximity to this parking garage that's currently constructed here. So our thinking is that we're going to be using this parking garage as a piece of infrastructure to handle the parking for this office space. So the only really designated parking that we'll need for this building are a few ADA accessible parking spaces that'll be provided out on the existing curb cut here. Again, here's kind of an aerial project site. Maker Way, the streetscape there, Madison Street, the existing streetscape, and then that parking garage that we just discussed. So jumping into the floor plans, the building is developed or designed in kind of 3 program bars, if you will. So there's this north bar here, a central bar here, and then a southern bar here. The north bar, again, this is the first floor, holds primarily the amenity spaces for the tech companies. So the yellow here is indicating a social hub cafe, so a break room space that is adjacent to a front patio space or a front plaza space for the building. These red areas indicate meeting room spaces of various sizes. So we've got 2 meeting rooms, 2 kind of individual meeting rooms, as well as a flex meeting room / wellness space here. The center bar being primarily a atrium circulation, vertical circulation, and reception here, and then service here in the back. So gender inclusive restrooms here, as well as bike storage, mechanical, fire sprinkler, as well as a mother's room here. All the blue areas that you'll see in the plan are tenant spaces, so future rentable space for prospective tech companies. There's a central stair here, as well as a fire stair here. And again, you can see that this north bar and the center bar are pushed back from Madison Street here, and that's due to just create a nice entry plaza, not only for the companies that are in the building, but be a resource for the mill, as well as just community events within this plaza. Stepping back over here, there's a secondary courtyard that is off of this meeting flex space here to allow for potential bleed out space for that room, as well as a lunch area within, just outside of the building. Jumping upstairs, so this is the 2nd floor, this is the 3rd floor. 2nd floor becomes predominantly office space. So a blue, again, the north bar becomes mainly tenant space, as well as the southern bar here. Within the atrium space, we have carved out a roof terrace. One important piece to this, this building was also creating on every floor exterior amenity space as a post-COVID response, and just creating a building that inspires people to get outside and work outside as well. So each floor, as you can see, first floor being these plaza spaces provide outdoor area adjacent to workspaces, as well as this roof deck here, and then jumping up to the third floor here, the north bar becomes a green roof and patio deck area for the building. And again, these are all off of public areas, so there's plenty of opportunities to get outside within the office building here. And lastly, just this 3rd floor here, you can see this canopy here, this dashed line. This is a PV array, so a photovoltaic array that's lifted above the building, and we'll see this in the renderings. It's doing 2 things. One, providing energy for the building, so it's solar energy, as well as providing shade for all of these canopy, or all of these roof terraces here. Can jump kind of into the interior architecture. I know this is a lot, Al, so we'll try to run through this quickly.
About 5 minutes.
Okay. The structural system that we've chosen for the building is heavy timber, and that's really for 2 things, or 3 things you could say. One, it's just telling that story of wood on the site. So Showers Brothers obviously were crafters of wood. How can we introduce wood as a primary element and a structural element in the building? 2, it provides warmth. And then 3, it's a structural material that sequesters carbon. So it's a sustainable product that the building will be built upon. Within the aesthetic of the interior, we're also looking at concrete floors, metal deck, exposed systems. So really trying to create a good bone structure for the building that could be an amenity for the tenant build out. Again, kind of looking at just precedents within the public zones of the building. These wellness rooms that'll have large amounts of daylight and just window exposure to the public way. A social hub that has views to the exterior of the plaza area here. And then that open central atrium stair that could be used for amenity spaces or assembly spaces, as well as meeting spaces for 1, 2, or 3 individuals. Now jumping to the exterior aesthetic for the building. So obviously 1 is just creating a dialogue with the existing architecture. So The mill building being across the street, it's primarily masonry with metal trim work and regular smaller openings with accentuated heads and sills. So using that vernacular as a grounding block, but then building upon that in a very contemporary way. So looking at creating fenestrations that are a bit more dynamic, and then using a material palette that one shows its age, but also provides a level of refinement. So looking at using Corten metal steel, facade metal, so that'll age with the building and tie into the existing historic structures, but provide a bit of modernity to the building. Lastly, looking at, again, that PV array that's lifted above the building to create an architecture that's, one, sustainable, but as well as just showcasing the technology that's within the building. Again, just materials that are found on site. So here's the building that we've developed over the past couple of weeks. Again, it's 3 stories. The orange here you can see is the Corten metal panel. The sill and heads above the windows are, again, playing off of the heavy sills and heads that are on the existing masonry. The first floor is primarily storefront and charcoal masonry, again, helping ground the building a bit. And at the human level on the ground plane, there's a relation to the historic context. Again, you can see the PV array that's lifted above the building, one providing energy and providing just a piece of sustainable architecture that's seen from the public way here. So this is a view from Madison Street. This is a view from Maker Way from the west. Again, the material palette. So gray brick, kind of the Corten steel, the large window openings along Madison here, bringing light and activity to the streetscape here. Charcoal metal panel, as well as PVs. This is just a snapshot from the master plan that was developed in 2019. So again, just looking at the building through the lens of a study that's already been done. Again, noting just the use of Corten, brake metal, aluminum storefront. Getting into the site design. So again, this is the site. Obviously, quite a bit of the street improvements have already been done. So the site design in general is just adding upon the streetscape that's already been developed. So again, looking at the plaza here, creating a cafe space as well as a community table here, and then a cafe space here towards the west. And there's a view kind of that cafe area and the community table. Another requirement for the PER was to provide a cost estimate. So our team has done that, as well as a projected schedule for the building if the grant was received. So currently the budget is at about $9.8 million, just under that. We've added contingency, we've added soft costs within that number. And then again, we've itemized not only just general trade breakouts, but an even further itemized list of the cost estimate within the PER. And then lastly, the project schedule. So fingers crossed, we hear early 2021 and have a projected start date for the project of early February. With SD, DD, CDs, hopefully we have a bid set at the beginning of September, and then approximately 16 months of construction would deliver this building by the end of 2022, core shell wise, and potentially some TI could begin before that substantial completion for the core shell. So.
Thank you.
That's all we got. Was that 10?
A little more, but that's okay.
Well done. That was very fast. Thanks very much, Sean and Drew. So I think that's the end of the presentation. Maybe before moving on to the resolution, does anybody have any questions for Axis? Doesn't sound like it. So Don, I'll turn it to you. Procedurally, do you want to?
I think let me ask the public if they have any questions in regards to this resolution 20-60. Are we at 66? Yes, we are at 66, aren't we? And I don't think so. I don't think we have any comments from the community. So any commissioners have any questions that they'd like to add?
I just have, could you help me understand, and I think I understand this, but number 2, the RDC hereby commits to a project match in the amount of $1,958,380. And then it says may be increased or decreased based on the grant awarded. Can you just clarify that?
Yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm going to go to the resolution itself. Scrolling through here. You're referencing number 2 in the resolution, Cindy?
Yes.
Okay.
I can make a comment, I think. It's in there just because we are asking for a certain amount from the EDA, but there's no guarantee that we will get that amount. So, I mean, in all likelihood, it would go down. You can correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, if it changes, but it's one of those things. We don't know what they will do with our application.
So it looks like $1,958,000 is about 25% of the $7,839,000. So it would stay as a percentage. So if they come back and say the amount of federal funding is $6 million, the match amount would be about 25% of that.
20.
Yeah, so Cindy, the 7 million plus number is actually the number that the EDA would put on the table. And then on top of that, we would put the 20% of the local match for the total, which is the amount that was listed in the presentation.
Okay.
But Cindy, this is Kaisa. You're correct that we would be giving 25% as much, but a total of 1/5 for the 80-20 match.
Okay, so about 25%.
25% of what the EDA will be paying, but it's 20% of the total cost of the building.
Okay.
But yes, your understanding is correct. If they give us less money, then the amount of money that the RDC would be committed to would decrease proportionally.
So if there's a possibility that they give us 5 million as opposed to the 7 million that we're asking, correct? Or 3 million or something like that.
Yeah, there's a possibility that they would come back to us and say, we're not going to give you the full amount you've requested from us, and we're going to give you some lower amount.
Okay. So right now we don't really have working drawings. We have estimates based on renderings, and that we don't have. It hasn't been engineered yet, so we can probably do some value added. We can change this up if we need to. Hello?
Yes. Yeah.
Sean, you want to answer that?
Yeah, it's early enough in the process that we definitely could. Yeah. We try to add as much contingency, I would say, in the cost estimate with the goal of, the EDA providing the amount necessary for the building. But say if they were to come back with less amount, we could still execute a building around the same square footage. but there may need to be tweaks done, obviously.
Okay.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, yeah, and I didn't want to seem like a jerk when I said, seeing the pretty, but I think that's kind of what I knew this would be fabulous. And I still think it can be fabulous, even if we have to, scale it down. I love the direction architecturally that you're going in as well as the sustainability aspect of it. But it may have to be toned down.
Yeah, and I will say the PER goes into much more detail of the systems and all the components of the building a bit more. We limited the graphic package to simply elevations, renderings, and floor plans, but within that PER, there's a large document of narratives as well as just that itemized breakdown of cost estimates. So I feel like we're pretty confident in that number, just because of all the work our engineering team has done of trying to understand the building, even though we're at a pretty schematic level still. Okay. That makes sense.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? David, you got anything you want to contribute? Sorry to call you out.
Well, yeah, during our work on the mill, we found out that the furniture, fixtures, equipment, IT were all extras. So I don't know if that's been allowed for in these cost estimates, or even if the grant would permit using those funds for those types of equipment and so on. Maybe Alex can address that.
So you've listed out two types of costs, so and sort of implicitly three. Things like IT related, so you've got you've got the operating cost of that, and then you have more of the equipment cost. Then you have shared space, finishings, if you will, and then you've got private space finishings. And Sean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that certainly the grant does not allow for private space, finishings and TI. So that's being set aside. How much of the Sean? How much of the costs of some of the shared space? I've seen some of the the work you've done on that. How much of that is baked into this so far?
It's $125K that we have for the core shell spaces. Again, we can kind of just go to the plans here real quick. We also have an itemized list that we've provided. So it's really the yellow, the red, the orange spaces, as well as the roof terraces. So it's not, it's approximately, I would say, maybe 15% of the building, FF&E wise. So it's not a huge factor, but we have that in the budget, I guess, FF&E that's identified for those shared spaces.
So David, we try to differentiate between the types of spaces and what would be in and what would not be in the grant.
Right.
Yeah, that's fine. I think you've answered my question.
Alex, this is Eric. First, thanks to the architects for coming to our meeting and putting themselves on the line. It is exciting visual material, and I do think it was helpful procedurally as well to see it first. So just a question about how we're conceptualizing this overall investment that we're being asked to endorse. We're being asked to vote to support up to $2 million on what will be an up to $10 million building, I think. And just wondering, was there a decision made up front that was sort of the ceiling in terms of what was available and reasonable for us to consider based on what's available of our TIF funds? Or on the other hand, does one start with the program itself and with a notion of what square footage and what particular needs are out there likely to be filled? You know, which comes first in terms of how you worked with the architects on this project?
That's a great question. So it's sort of both at the same time. So the feasibility and actually the market study of the building tried to go down the path of what would be what could the community and or the site bear, right? So you had that absent any kind of design. What was informing the design size and cost primarily was really an indication we'd gotten from the EDA as to, you know, where they felt some of the upper limit of what an EDA grant would cover. So indications that they would probably start to top off around that $8 million range, you know, help to size this thing. So we knew we weren't dealing with a, you know, 300,000 square foot building. We knew we were dealing with something that had to be packaged within that overall guidance that we got early on from the EDA. So as we went down one path, we were using the feasibility study and a market study to validate that we were not overbuilding, and that we were, you know, going to build a building that could be successful, which has happened in parallel.
Thanks. Yeah, I think to the extent that we succeed in this, there's going to have to be a strong need to show that this indeed is the size and the square footage and the programming of that square footage that our own studies show us is going to be feasible and desirable given this market. So I just want to make sure that we have the goods to back that estimate up, rather than sort of beginning with what can we get away with and then seeing what we can build for it.
Well, and to the EDA's credit, they also want that, right? They don't want to invest in something that's not going to be successful. So that's why that's part of the requirement of the documentation they have.
Okay. Any other questions in regards to resolution 20-66 or comments? Does anyone want to offer a motion?
This is David Walter. I'll offer a motion that we accept resolution 20-66.
This is Eric. I will second the motion.
All those in favor? I, Don Griffin.
Cindy Canarney, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes.
Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
Motion carries. The next item of business is resolution 20-67. Second amendment to the physical improvement CDBG agreement for the Bloomington Housing Authority. Who wishes to speak in regards to this motion?
Matt Swinney here. We've already brought this to the commission once before for an extension. We had an issue with getting the handrails to finish the project. That's still the problem that we have. They recently found out that the supplier of the raw materials for the project for the manufacturer hasn't even started to fill that order. So the BHA is now going with a different system that has the materials and supply readily available. So we wanted to do another extension, but this extension we're going longer just in case something should happen. Again, with the way things are right now, we just felt it prudent to go ahead and really extend out the end of the contract just to not to run into this problem again.
Okay. Any questions in regards to this resolution? Hello? Can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. Any questions from the public in regards to resolution 20-67? I don't think so. Nothing from the public. So any questions from redevelopment commissioners? Okay, do we have a motion?
Yeah. Wait, what's the, I miss it. I can't find the extension date. Is it 2021, like the full year extension?
Yeah, we went all the way to 2021 just in case, you know, the issues due to COVID and the manufacturing being way behind. Just in case we have another setback and stuff gets pushed out even farther, we thought it prudent to go ahead and go to 2021 with it, September of 2021.
Are we having like supply issues?
Yes.
And is that costing us more?
No, the new product is actually coming in cheaper, but we had to pay for the design drawings, or BHA had to pay for the design drawings. So it's ended up being a wash switching to the new supplier. But they're supposed to have everything readily available, and they should be able to finish shortly after December, probably.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Any more questions from commissioners, or can we have a motion?
I move to approve resolution 20-67 for the extension to 30th, 2021.
Canary seconds.
All those in favor? Aye. Don Griffin.
Cindy Canardi, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes.
Eric Samos, yes.
David Walter, yes.
All those opposed? None. The motion carries. The next item of business is resolution 20-68, approving roof replacement for 627 North Morton Street. Who wants to talk in regards to this?
Start in, and Larry then can maybe bail me out. So if you recall, the Redevelopment Commission owns a building on North Morton at 627/629 North Morton. It's got offices down on the first floor, and then there's a couple of apartments up on the second floor. The building is a relatively old building and has been, when we purchased the building, we did an assessment of the building. The roof was designated as being something that we would have to deal with sooner rather than later, and now it's become sooner. So basically what's happened is there's been leakage through the roof in different areas, one of which is an apartment that's being rented, and the leaking has penetrated the interior ceiling, causing a kind of emergency situation where we needed to go in and make some repairs. We took a look at whether it was possible to patch the roof, but the roof is actually leaking in a variety of different spots. So it was deemed just a better course of action to do a quick replacement of the roof rather than try to patch it here and there only to find other leaks later on. So what you have here is a bid for that roof repair. And Larry, I don't know if you want to just jump in on the process here.
Sure, I could just say really quickly, so anytime there's an emergency repair, it does allow us to go directly with whatever vendor is available, and that was the case here. We did do a quick cost estimate to make sure that this was in line with what we could expect with the roof replacement, and maybe as Alex intimated, he definitely tried to just get a repair done on the roof as opposed to a full replacement, but ultimately all the roofing companies basically said that we need to do the full replacement. And because this is a straight replacement of the roof as it existed, this would come from the 444 account, which is your maintenance account, as opposed to TIF funds. There's no particular upgrade to the building coming as a result of this roof replacement. This would just be a replacement of the shingles that are on there.
Okay. And that's the building where they're using as an engineering spot for on the main floor for what we're doing up there?
That's right. That was the construction office was run out of that building for the Trades District construction project.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the front part of the office was used from that.
Okay. Well, it has already been fixed, correct? Has it been fixed? It was an emergency fix, right?
Yeah, it was an emergency fix. I was scheduled for this past Saturday. I have not yet gone to see if it was done, but I will make sure that it was done. If not, it's going to be done very shortly, and we'll get the leak to stop inside that bedroom.
Okay. Did we? I hate to ask you that. Did we check for any mold remediation or mold issues caused by an extended leaking roof?
We have not. We can do that as maybe as the final step here before we seal it all up.
Okay. That would be awesome. I don't know how we vote on that. I don't know if we make that amendment. I don't know. I don't.
We maybe check with the roofing company actually, Don, just because that was part of the inspection. It looks like they did at least to inspect inside for the decking for any damage, rot, or moisture, which I think mold would have been a part of that. But we also have our facilities person to double check that. So.
Okay, cool, man. Okay, any questions from the public in regards to resolution 20-68? And no, we don't have any questions. So any commissioners have any questions in regards to 20-68? All right, can we have a motion?
Don, can you hear me okay?
A little bit.
No. Dang it. Okay, I guess we're approving a cost before we're sure it's done. Is that what we're doing here?
It's already been ordered, right? And maybe it's already been done.
Yeah, it may have already been done, but the cost estimate that's attached to the resolution would guide the work. So you're approving against that estimate.
Okay.
I will say, I mean, just in full transparency, I mean, while it was an emergency repair, you all can reimburse the city as well. So if for some reason you want us to go check on a couple of details, including the completion of the work, we can also make sure that this is on the agenda for the next meeting. If you wanted you could pass a motion to postpone the hearing until the next meeting and approve it then, as long as it makes our claims process. That's no big deal. But that's just an option you all have anytime.
Okay. Anybody have any objections to approving this, or do you maybe taking the additional steps that Larry suggests? I don't know if he suggested it. I think he just mentioned it. I'm not sure he's. What do y'all think? Anybody have any?
Oh, this is David Walter. I'll make a motion we accept this resolution 20-68. You can't wait if you need a roof.
Cindy Canardi seconds.
All those in favor, Don Griffin, I, Don Griffin, accept.
Cindy Canardi, yes.
Nick Kappas, yes.
Eric Sandweiss, yes.
David Walter, yes.
None opposed. The motion does carry. Next, we have business or general discussion. And if we don't have anything in regards to business or general discussion, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. But what do we got? Anybody? Anything? No? Those are some fine hats you got back there, David Walters. I like those. All right. Hey, I think the meeting is adjourned.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.